Okay, so as you may have guessed, I'm not from around here, so wave if you need a translation. But at least you're not going to complain about my spelling here, because they spell everything correctly in this country. And if you feel the need to show appreciation for Imagr, I have one other hobby, other than being a professional nerd. All right, so there are some people who are of the opinion that imaging's dead. So unless you live in a land of milk and honey, where any issue can be resolved 100% of the time, or your machines never get recycled into new people, you're going to need to do some imaging. So before we start, there's a few things you are going to need. If you don't have the files yet, please shout and I'll give you a USB drive. And there is a URL there, but we have a good enough USB drive, so that's all good. You're probably also going to need an OS 10 installer app. It should match the version of OS 10 that your Mac is currently running. And if it's older than 10.10, you're out of luck, and really, what are you doing? You shouldn't really be here. So finally, you need a copy of VMware Fusion Professional. Professional is important because we're hoping to be net booting at the end, and you need Pro to do that. So they're the only things I can't give you for EULAs and stuff. So today, we are going to do a few things. We're going to set up a Docker server that's going to host everything we need for Imagr, the netboot server, a TFTP server, and a web server. Then we're going to create our Imagr config, and then we're going to move on to creating a netboot set for Imagr. And finally, if the gods are with us, we'll image an OS 10 VM. So unfortunately, we have some long, boring prep work to get done before we can really start. We do have quite a bit to cover, so please wave your hand if I move too quickly. I don't want anyone to get left behind. All the commands you need to run are in a README on that USB drive I gave you, so if you miss one, you can copy and paste it off there. But still, just shout if I'm moving too quickly. So before we image our machines, we're going to need an image. We're going to use AutoDamage to make it. AutoDamage makes images that have never been booted. And just like you wouldn't want to wear someone's socks that they've already worn, don't make your users use an image that you have already booted. Give them a nice, clean, fresh one. And it's really easy to use. I mean, it really is very easy to use. So everyone please open up AutoDamage. If you don't have it on your machine already, you'll find it in the apps folder that was distributed on the thumb drive. If you already have an AutoDamage image built that you want to use, just use it, because we don't need anything special for it. And some people's machines won't be able to finish in time if you've got an older Mac. So when you've got AutoDamage open, it will look like this. Locate your OS 10 installer and drag it to where it tells you to drag it. And when you've done that, click on Build. Save it somewhere that you can find it again, desktop, wherever. Just make sure you can find it. That would probably be considerate.
I have a pre-built one if anybody who just wants to copy it or doesn't have the tools or doesn't have it installed.
Yeah, I didn't want to risk the Apple gods and distribute OS 10. All right, so has everyone got that going? Anyone not? Oh, OK. So you will need a decent text editor for this session. I've provided a few for you in the editor's directory, but you can use anything you like. Just please don't use Microsoft Word or TextEdit or anything stupid like that. If you haven't already, copy everything from the thumb drive into your home directory. The /users is magically linked into the VM we're going to set up. So make sure you're not running this from the thumb drive or your netbook just isn't going to work properly. So finally, I need you to run the Docker Toolbox installer. You'll find that in the apps directory as well. Yeah, just install it. It'll be fine.
Trust me, plugging the thumb drive.
Yeah. I mean, I've already owned all your computers anyway now, so you're all stuffed. Mm. You all good so far? Please wave if I'm losing anyone. All right, we'll move on. OK. OK, so now I need you to open up your terminal and navigate to the directory where you just copied everything off and run the script that will start your Docker environment. So what this is going to do is set you up with a small VM that's just going to run Docker for you. And at the end of it, it's going to spit out your VM's IP address. Please make a note of that, because you'll need it later. OK. We all done that?
But it is 3 gigs. Copy. Run AutoDamage. Do you happen to know what's installed?
Can you talk about what that machine script is doing?
Yeah, sure. So what that's doing is setting up a VMware Fusion VM running boot to Docker, which is a really small Linux distro. And then that will, your Docker client on your Mac will then communicate with that VM, because OS X doesn't support Docker natively. So we need to run it in a VM. That's basically what that one's doing.
So Fusion doesn't actually, the GUI of Fusion doesn't need to be running, correct?
No. I mean, we'll open it up later when we're actually netbooting, but right now it can run headless. All right. Anyone still copying? OK, well,
How can we verify that it says Docker's up and running, but how can we verify if the VM is active?
next slide. OK, we'll move on. So now we need to tell your local Docker client about your VM. This is what this is going to do. So Docker machine env VMware Docker. That's just the name I gave the VM. And then that will say, run this, and you run the eval, which you can copy and paste from there. This should have been spat out at the end of the last script, so you can just copy and paste from there. All good so far? Please wave. Sorry?
Who's got contracts?
All right, so still in the...
Go back to thank you.
I said all of the commands that are on here are in the README, so you can copy and paste them.
All right.
I learned from last time. All right, so now we are going to run a script that's going to import all of the Docker containers. Normally this would pull from the Docker hub, but what these are going to do is import from local files, because bandwidth. And that would just suck. It's going to take us all day. And this is the last slide of boring prep. We can get through it.
Am I stuck at waiting for VM to come online?
Are you on a VPN or something?
No.
OK, because right. So now we've done all, congratulations, you've done all the boring work. So now we'll go from building, copying, that kind of stuff. So what is Imagr? So Imagr is an open source deployment tool for OS X, well, Mac OS Max. It doesn't require any special infrastructure. its configuration can be served from pretty much any web server. And because it just needs a web server, you're not stuck with running it on OS X. You can use Linux, Windows, anything that can serve a web page. And let's face it, I don't want to trust something that's vital to the productivity of my organization to what is basically a laptop. But Pine Brienne has published his white paper on the current best use for Apple servers. So, as I mentioned before, it's open source. This means if I ever decide to stop working on it, someone else will probably pick it up. If you have features you want to add in, I'm more than happy to take pull requests. And this means there are always lots of people conducting testing on development builds. So let's put it this way. Imagr supported 10.11 months before it was released. The alternative that everyone else seems to use, well, it took them over a month after 10.11 was released to support it. So, and that's 10% of the operating system's lifespan these days. As we're about to see, Imagr can replace Deploy Studio for most people. And possibly the biggest reason you should be interested in Imagr is that it's got a really growing community around it. There are a couple of tools that other people have built to help you make your netboot images. There's MBI Creator from Eric Berglund that will make net installs that have some nice extras like having ARD enabled, and you can pop up the console app behind the Imagr app. There's also AutoDamage MBI, which Ben Tom's made, which will let you create a full netboot image if that's something you need rather than net install. We've had code contributions from people who make a lot of the tools that we all use every day. The Mac admin community has really thrown itself behind this project. So Imagr is configured using a simple Peerlist. It's a format that all Mac admins should be familiar with. And let's face it, if you don't like Peerlist, you are probably in the wrong job. So let's start off. The first thing that Imagr needs is a password to protect your users from accidentally nuking their machines. So navigate to your scripts folder and open up genpassword.sh in one text editor. Replace your password here with your chosen password. It doesn't need to be anything special. Password is probably fine, so it's only you logging into it. How are we doing? All good? Asleep? Dead? Have you all completed this step? You hear me? Sorry? The slides, they will be when I hit publish on the post, yes. Yes. Everything you need to type into your terminal is in the README. OK, so now you've hopefully got your password in there. We can run that script to generate your password hash. In your directory, you copy the files, run the genpassword.sh script, and you'll get.
The web root folder?
That should be in scripts.
The actual Imagr config Peerlist.
Yes, that will be in web root. So you'll get a hash of your chosen password. This isn't supposed to be super secure. I know it's trivial to reverse this. This is just to stop your users from doing stupid things and wiping their own machine by accident, which has never happened to me. OK, so have you all got your password hash? Yeah. Am I going too quickly? All right. So with your password hash, if you open up the Imagr config plist, you'll find that in data, web root. Find a bit with an existing password hash. And if you did indeed choose password for your password, you'll find the hash is identical, because that's what I used. So you can stick your password hash in a bit marked red, pink, whatever color it is. Okay. Yes, no, maybe. Moving on. OK. So as I mentioned before, Imagr is configured using a Peerlist. And as I said before again, you can host it anywhere. You could even host it from your public folder in Dropbox if you really felt so inclined. Not that I'd particularly recommend that. So Imagr is split up into workflows. It's exactly the same as Deploy Studio. Workflows are the bit that you or your techs will choose when they're actually deploying images. And each workflow is made up of components. Components are the specific tasks that Imagr performs. They'd be installing a package, running a script, restoring an image. There are several included in Imagr, and we're going to be looking at the most commonly used ones today. So back to your Imagr config plist. This is what it should look like so far. You've got absolutely nothing in there. It's not very useful. So we're going to add in our first component, which will go in between the array tags under the components key. And that bit we are going to put in is this. This is what you should add in. Our component image type is an image, and we're giving it a URL where our image can be found. So you should change the file name to match what you called your AutoDamage image, and the IP address should be what your VM spat out at the beginning. So unlike Deploy Studio, Imagr doesn't require you to have the HFS in the image file name, but mine normally do because I'm lazy. So if you feel like copying and pasting, you'll find this as component1.plist in the For the Cheaters folder. Anyone stuck? Don't be shy. I'm not that rude. OK. You all got that copy and pasted and edited to your requirements? Come on, you've all just had coffee. All right, I'm moving on. OK, so here's our second part. And you can stick this right underneath the last section. You'll find this is component2.plist, once again, if you feel like copying and pasting. We're looking at package components here. So Imagr can do a lot of things, either whilst you're booted into a net install, or during the Mac's first boot after it's been restored, etc. And we're going to be doing both here. These particular packages don't actually matter where they get installed, because they're well-made packages. But you might be running a package that depends on something else having happened, or it may make assumptions about where it is running from. You know, software vendors may not have decent packages. Not that you should really be installing software with Imagr. You should be just bootstrapping into your package management tool, but you can do that too. All right, so replace your IP address with your VM's IP address and copy and paste it in. Any questions so far? Wow.
Sorry, I'm
Hi.
just here. So you've got these two pieces.
Mm-hmm.
That dictionary entry looks very similar to the previous dictionary entry.
Yep.
The IP address and then the HFS image. These are two additional entries.
Yes, these are packages, because we have the type here, type package. Right. And in the previous one, we had type image. So every component has its own type. That's how Imagr knows what to do with it. So these ones are packages. And these ones, we've got one that's being installed at not being installed at first boot. Sounds backwards, but because when Imagr was first made, everything was installed at first boot, because it's generally the safest way of doing it. So to keep backwards compatibility.
So this is component 2.plist in the cheaters folder?
Yes.
This entry belongs directly after the previous image type entry?
Correct, yes. Order is important, because Imagr won't make any assumptions about how you want to run things. It assumes that you as the admin know what you're doing. So let's say you installed a package and then did an image task. because you're ASRing an image, it will blank the drive again, so you're as if your package never was installed. So order is important. Okay, so ready to move on? Anyone not done this?
I'm still working through it, but carry on.
Worth repeating that that's in the cheaters folder to speed things.
Yes. Yes, you can definitely copy and paste from the folder cheaters folder. Oh, I don't judge people who cheat.
So all 4 components we need in there?
Yes, you will do, I think. All right, so next one, computer name. So if there is already one set on the volume we're imaging, if the machine has a computer name already, you'll be offered that as a default. You can also choose to have it set as the machine's serial number. And you can also run this as well if you wanted to. So this is component 3.plist in the for the choosers folder. So as I said before, order is really important in Imagr. To set the computer name, you also have to run a script to set the name, and Imagr abstracts that away from you, but that script will be copied. Let's say you did this and then did a image task. That script's going to get wiped out. So order is very important. Think about how you want things to happen. You would restore the image, then you'd set the name.
So the Peerlist will only have one array set at the end, or is it multiple arrays?
If you had multiple workflows, you'd have multiple arrays. This is an array of dictionaries for this workflow.
So single array.
Yeah, in this example, we'll only have one, yeah.
And sir, what did you say with the computer name, Brad? You said it was the actual sharing prep name or the host name, or?
It sets all of them, yeah.
Oh, so
In a
it's
sec.
not an existing value, it's a value to be set.
Yeah, I mean, when Imagr runs, if there is an existing name set, you'll be offered that as a default, but you can still change it.
Can you repeat all the questions? Because other people might have the same question, and so if you repeat the question, then other people get the answer.
Okay.
Nice.
Thank you, Alistair.
Thank you, Alistair.
Alistair's.
Just give him a mic, yeah. Let's just save the trouble.
Alistair's just repeating what I just wrote in the Slack. If you're going to ask questions, use the mic or remind the speaker to repeat your question so everyone can hear it and it's recorded. Thank you very much.
So he was impersonating you and not Rio?
That was a perfect impersonation, don't you think, Louise? So, Mark, if you have questions, ask the speaker to repeat them. Louise, everyone, please. So, and speak clearly, everyone, consistently.
Sorry.
Okay.
Not my fault, I speak different
Disappear.
language.
Graham, you mentioned there was 4 components that should be in there.
Yep.
Can you just go over those 4 components? I mean, I see the package, I see the 2 packages, actually. I'm sorry,
Yep.
the image, and then the type, which was the computer name.
Yeah, well, we've got a computer name one coming up, and next one is our last, we'll come on to the next slide, which is script tasks. So you can run any random script you want. You probably almost always want to run it at first boot, because the net install is a really stripped down environment, and there's a lot of things missing that you would expect to be in there. However, there are certain things that you do need to run during net install. So there's component 4.plist in the for the cheaters directory. We've got one where we are setting allowed netboot servers if your network team doesn't like you and won't let you have IP helpers, so you can actually netboot across subnets. And then we've also one that's pulled straight out of ARD, going to turn on SSH. And obviously we need to do that once the actual machine is up and running, because turning on SSH on our netboot is pretty useless. Real good. Successfully copying and pasting?
There's no values to change here.
No, you can if you want. Right, so that is all there really is to configuring Imagr. I mean, that's it. I mean, it is a very simple tool. It was designed to be simple. So one of the common pitfalls people have is they have an invalid plist. Plist is a defined format, and Imagr ships with a tool to help try to validate your plist. It will make sure it is actually a valid plist, and it will make sure that you're not doing anything obviously dumb with your components. So if you open up the Imagr.dmg, which you find in your apps folder, and copy the tools folder out of that to somewhere on your disk, it doesn't really matter where. And once you've got that copied, which should be quick because there's very little in there, cd into that directory in your terminal and run the validate plist command. So this is going to make a good attempt at making sure your plist is valid, but it's not going to catch everything. But this is a good first step. So if you run this and make sure that your Imagr config is valid before moving on. And this will also make sure that your web server has come up correctly as well. You can pass in a local file as well if you'd like to validate it before making it live.
Should the error message be descriptive, or will it just say error?
So the question was, should the error message be descriptive, or will it just say error? Depends. The first step is running plutil-lint, which will just make sure it is a valid plist, and that will give you a line number where your plist is broken, or it thinks your plist is broken. If it is a problem with the actual Imagr config, I don't know, let's say that you have a package component and you don't specify a URL, yes, it'll print out and say, hey, dummy, you need to put a URL in here, please. And it's very polite as well, because I wrote it.
Sorry, where's this tools folder or this?
So yeah, the tools folder is in the Imagr.dmg. If you open up that, that's in the apps folder. If the web server hasn't come up, Imagr's not going to work, so we should fix that. Yes, so it's just been pointed out that I added this in last night, and I broke my own rule of changing my slides. So this is not going to work, so no one bother doing this. All right, so we do need your, we'll come back to that and we'll run that in a more appropriate point when it will actually work. So has everyone's AutoDamage build finished? Yep, all good? Everyone's finished? Everyone's still going on that one? So that's probably like the longest step. All right, we're moving on. Okay, so let's get our MBI going. To build the MBIs, we use a really modern technology called Make. Once again, it's because I'm pretty lazy and it's what I started in, and it's what I've carried on using. So we're going to make an override file. So in the tools directory, which is the same directory you just copied, which has the validate plist script in and the make file, if you can create a new file called config.mk. Spelling and case and capitalization is important on that one. And make is really fussy about spaces, tabs, etc. So make sure you don't put any spaces between URL equals your address. Once again, this is in the full tutors directory. You can copy and paste. Yes. Although, once again, I've just seen an error in that. So let's fix that. Okay, so I've just added in this line. This will not be in the for the tutors folder, so please put that in. Because when you make your MBI, Imagr will, well, the makefile will try to run validate Peerlist, which, as we've already seen, because our web server isn't up yet, it's not going to work. So we're telling it to skip the validation. We'll validate later.
So we're creating a config.mk, right?
Correct. There is a template one in for the tutors. So yeah, you are creating the config.mk.
And the output directory.
This is all making sense so far, what we're doing. Just blindly typing stuff into a window. Okay, so what we're doing here is overriding some values. I mean, you could pass all, when we run the next command, you could pass all these in as command line arguments, but that's busy work. So this is a bit more repeatable when you're updating your MBI. So once you have this file, you can then hop back to your terminal and run make update. So this will update an existing MBI, which I've shipped on that USB drive. If you just typed in make MBI, it will make a brand new one, but that will take about 20 minutes, so don't do that. Is anyone getting horrific errors? Has it worked? No, it's not making it there. So the question was, is this making a netboot in /library/netboot? No, it's not making it there. It's going to make it in the web root directory, because once again, we're not running this on OS X server. So /library doesn't exist on the particular operating system we're running it on. So that's why your output is specified. Here, we're telling it where it's going to make it. And because we're updating it, it will expect to find a net install image there, and it's just going to update the imager in our config, which should be very quick, like 10 seconds quick.
I'm just getting a validate plist on the end of the make config.
Did you, if you're getting errors about validate plist not being able to run, stick validate false at the end of it.
Oh, right.
Because, once again, I messed up my slides, and our web server is not running yet. So it's going to have a hard time finding something that doesn't exist. Sad trombone.
So it copied the image to the boot volume into like a temp directory because it's using a base system image?
Yeah, so what this is doing is opening up the existing netboot, and it's creating a shadow volume, and it's going to make the changes, and then it will convert it back to read-only. I can't take any credit for any of this. Pepijn Brienne, this uses AutoMBI, which Pepijn Brienne wrote, and I just stole it. I actually made him make changes for me. All right, so if your make update has succeeded, be happy. If it hasn't, please raise your hand. We got one. What's the error? Okay, so make update has worked. So you should copy your AutoDamage image to data/webroot, stick it in that directory. And this is, if you're still running everything off the flash drive, this is where you're going to really hope you've copied it to your home directory, because your AutoDamage image is not going to fit on those drives. Okay, so with that copied, as I said before, we're going to be using Docker today. And this isn't really a Docker session, but all you need to know is we're effectively running tiny specialized containers that run the various parts we need. The commands in the scripts are a little more complicated than they should be, as we're running everything without requiring to go onto the internet and pull from the Docker hub, which is what you'd normally do. We're importing everything locally. But feel free to have a look at them if you feel like having a play with Docker at some point. So now we're going to start our containers. So in your Imagr lab directory, cd into that, and run scripts start docker.sh. And once this is up, we can then go back and validate our Peerlist. Hopefully. All working okay for everybody? Good. Okay. So when your Docker containers are all up, you can then go back and validate your Peerlist. So this will make sure your syntax is all correct. So this is the step where it's most likely things will go wrong. It's what catches most people out, which is why I encourage you to run this script frequently and often. Did that work for everybody? We have an error. Can we be more? Totally. So the question was, should we be drinking beer instead? And the answer to that is absolutely. Okay. So if your Peerlist are all validated, we got up to here. So in your terminal, you can type docker logs BSD Pipe, and hopefully you'll see BSD Pipe is the Netbook server. Primary VM wrote this. Again, he seems to have made everything for this. You should see a whole spew of stuff about it starting up, but it should also mention Imagr.MBI. If it hasn't seen your MBI, not going to serve out anything for Netbook, so we need to fix that. So make sure that BSD Pipe knows about your Netbook image.
Let's jump back to that last slide.
Which?
That was a validate Peerlist slide.
Yeah, this one's really important. If your Peerlist isn't valid, obviously Imagr is not going to work. Everyone else got their Peerlist validated? Awesome. Right, let's carry on. So this should hopefully say that your MBI is being served out for Netbook. Is anyone not seeing Imagr.MBI being listed as an available Netbook image when they run this command? Awesome. Right, I'm going to assume that we're all done. OK, so it's time to Netbook. You've now set up everything you need for Imagr. So I was going to quickly make a empty VM, but we're going to image into. So if you fire open VMware Fusion, file new, and we are going to create a custom virtual machine. And unsurprisingly, that VM's operating system should match whatever you're restoring. The next settings are all defaults, leave that, unless for some reason you're throwing on more than the 40 gig image. And that's it. You hit finish, and you've got a blank VM, and start it up. You should see this nice grey VMware screen, and it will try boot off the hard disk. Nothing on there. And it's going to finally fall back to Netbook. And if the gods are with you, your machine will start to Netbook. Please all try. So during this point, if you actually get to the spinning globe, or if you don't. Sorry? Okay. Not. Okay, so if you are having problems with this, if your machine isn't net booting, have a look at the logs again, because they are very verbose, and you'll see the request coming in. If you don't see the request coming in, then something's broken. Shout and I'll come and have a look. But you should hopefully see your VM requesting a netboot image. And then, if everything goes well, you'll then see Imagr asking you to log in. So if you get this far, go ahead and restore. Okay, so that is largely all there is. So has anyone got any questions?
I didn't notice what OS
the NBI is
actually. What OS is the NBI actually running on?
10.11. Anyone else got any questions? Awesome. So thank you very much. You can find me on Twitter. I have stuff on GitHub. I write rubbish on the internet. And if you want to know more about Imagr, it's on GitHub. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Graham. Can you speak to the differences in the new Docker beta versus the Docker tools that you're using?
Yeah. So the one we're using today uses VMware, obviously. The new Docker tools use the native hypervisor built into OS 10, which is pretty limited. The main thing is it can't do bridge networking, so it means we can't netboot off it, which is kind of important for this one. So that's why we're using VMware Fusion.
Have you spoken with them? Or they?
I believe it's an Apple limitation. They just don't allow bridge networking through their hypervisor framework.
So don't use the new beta tools with it?
Not for this, no.
Questions, anyone? Take.
Graham, do you ever use the Docker tools with the VMware? Have you tried doing the VMware?
You mean as in vSphere?
Yeah.
No, because we live in EC2, so.
Okay.
No, I haven't. I hear they're very good though, but no, I haven't tried it. Anyone else? All right, thanks a lot, guys. If you haven't got things working, just grab me, I'll give you a hand. So I want everyone to get this going.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.